Haney and Gamboa have agreed to terms or something like that. But anyways, I'm gonna bring Broderick back on and we're gonna go through the contract just so we can, because there's gonna be a whole lot of he say, she say shit, and we'll go back and forth. So Broderick, are you awake, man? Did we put you to sleep? We're gonna make an abrupt left turn and get right back in it. You know what I mean? We're gonna get right back in it. And if he's still there, just get and call in and we'll go from there. See if he's still up. Damn, that was 15. I haven't seen him in the chat. He's usually active in the chat. Oh, you said it? Okay, good. Perfect. Butterfic. And we gonna perfect. So I can edit it out. All right, nobody else call in. All right. Nobody else call in. All right. Let me do this right now.
All right, what's up, Brad?
Yeah, you asleep?
Nah. So I'm ready to get back at it. I emailed you something that I'm going to reference in paragraph 2.
Okay. Which is important. Okay. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And real quick, I think that the term sheet anticipates the fact that Devin Haney was going to fight someone in the fall, because if you look at paragraph 8, it says that neither Haney or Russell shall participate in any other bout after January 1st, 2021, until the bout has been contested. So that's basically saying that they're free to fight someone else prior to January.
Yeah, I saw that. But all right, guys. So part 2. Do you want to start at part 1, or you want to? Yeah, we got new callers. So briefly go over part 1 and then we'll go to part 2.
So part 1 essentially says who's going to be fighting, when the deadline is for the fight, the weight that the fight's going to be at, and then the important part is the last sentence, which says that the term sheet agreement is contingent upon approval by the WBC, DAZN, and Matchroom USA. Mm-hmm. So that means that if Haney and Russell were to agree to it, and one of those 3 entities were to say no, then there's no fight. Mm. So if we move to 2's kind of like one of the important paragraphs.
Okay, go ahead. And people can read it.
It says, Russell warrants that Russell is a free agent and has no binding agreements with any promoter, advisor, or other party that would prevent Russell from agreeing, I should say, to the terms hereof and performing in the bout. At the conclusion of the bout, DHP shall cause Russell to be paid a total of $1,500,000 less any required deductions, including but not limited to the WBC sanction fees. That payment shall be made to Russell not less than 3 business days after completion and conclusion of the bout. Mm-hmm. And the reason why this is important, and I emailed you language that I found from Heyman's, Mr. Al Heyman's standard agreement with his fighters, is that if you're signed to his advisory contracts, he has to approve every boxing match. And so if Russell is not, in fact, quote unquote, a free agent, then he wouldn't be able to agree to this fight.
And that's the term sheet. And that's the picture you sent me, right? The fighter's actions.
That's the picture. Yeah.
So you want me to read it?
Yeah, if you read it or share it on your screen.
Yeah, they can read it. Yeah, they can see it. It's the top paragraph, right?
Right.
Yeah. So Al Heyman has to sign off even if they're not a free agent, and that's based off of his advisor, right?
Right. If he's got a written contract with Al Heyman, and this is what I found from the Golden Boy lawsuit. Uh-huh. If this is in the language of Gary Russell's contract, then Al Heyman would have, then he couldn't sign it because paragraph 2, he is under contract, and Al Heyman would have to approve any fight that he agrees to.
Gotcha. even though he's the advisor.
Right, because if like under that language, it says that basically Al Heyman's in control of your career.
Mm,
So as I read it, and maybe I'm reading it wrong, but if Al Heyman's your advisor, then you're not a free agent.
gotcha. But technically, on paper, you're a free. I mean, well, on paper, you're not. But it's just
So
so it's just a law that doesn't fall under the Ali Act, correct?
correct.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
a lot of times fighters will say they're a promotional free agent, but paragraph 2 in the term sheet is including promoter, comma, advisor or other party. So Al Heyman would fall under the advisor.
mm,
So I mean, it's kind of technical, but I think that that's very important because like if they know if Bill Haney knows that Gary Russell is under contract with Al Heyman, then he wouldn't be able to. I don't think he would be able to sign that. And if he did, it would be invalidated because um, Al Heyman can come in and say that I have a contract and I didn't sign off on it.
gotcha. So, so on that side of the street, Al Heyman either says yes or no.
Yes, if Al Heyman has an advisory contract with Gary Russell. Now, Gary Russell's video, he says that he don't have paperwork with Al Heyman, and so if that's true, then he would be able to sign this.
Gotcha, gotcha. Anything else on 2?
No.
Okay, let's go to 3. Let me go to 3. All right, 3. Go ahead, they can see it.
DHP shall provide Russell with notice of date and excuse me, with notice of date and site of the bout not less than 6 weeks prior to the date of the bout as selected by DHP. I guess the issue with this is that if I'm going to agree, if I'm Gary Russell and I'm going to agree to something, I'm going to want names, dates, and locations.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not going to wait until March to find out where I may be fighting in May. Like so in my mind, not having a date and not having a location or even a state that the fight's going to take place makes me call into question how serious of a term sheet this is. But but that's what I take from here because it's like you have there's no notice of date, site. It's 6 weeks prior. It doesn't say whether or not fans would be there. I mean, none of that is present. But we can move to the next one.
Okay, 4. 4 is there. They can see it.
So for this one, it's just basically saying that Matchroom USA and DHP will be the promoter, and the fight will take place pursuant to the rules of the WBC and the local commission.
Okay.
There's not a lot there.
5.
Right, 5. Again, this, and I'm going to go over this one, but this one lacks a lot of details. It says, provided that circumstances allow, i.e. reasonable circumstances in light of COVID-19 pandemic, DHP shall provide to Russell 5 economy flights, 5 hotel rooms, 5 per diems, $50 per person to be provided for Team Russell starting Sunday of fight week. Russell agrees to participate in all media events and comply with all of the zone's requirements, including attendance at and participation in an initial press conference or conferences, interviews during training, as well as fight week events. In the event that Russell fails to fulfill any such requirement, then DHP shall have the right to reduce the purse by $50,000 per occurrence. Again, if I'm inviting Gary Russell Jr., I'm not going to agree to something where the zone's requirements aren't listed. I'm not going to agree to something that is not clear on how many press conferences that I will attend. And quite frankly, I wouldn't agree to 5 economy flights. Like I would want to be flown in business, at least business class or first class. Mm-hmm. But it goes to what I found in this term sheet. It lacks a lot of details, and you can't ask someone to agree to something and tell them that they're going to be potentially docked $50,000 for every requirement they fail to fulfill when you're not even stating what the requirements are. And it's at the discretion of Devin Haney Promotions and not the zone. So like you're asking Gary Russell to agree to the zone's requirements, but the person who is determining whether or not Ms. Russell is complying with their requirements would be Devin Haney Promotion. Like I would never agree. If he was my client, I would never agree to that. But that's basically what that's saying.
Okay. Number 6.
6. The bout shall take place under the local commission rules. DHP shall cause Haney and Russell to agree to participate and fulfill the requirements of a clean testing program to be implemented by VADA at DHP cost. Again, I think this term lacks details because you would want to know when the testing is going to start. So if you go up to paragraph 3 and the date and the site may be announced as short as 6 weeks prior to the bout, like when is the VADA testing going to begin? Like you would want to know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I assume that both of these fighters are clean, but like let's say that someone isn't clean. Again, you would want to know when you'd be getting tested and when you would need to cycle off your PED. Mm-hmm. But again, there's not a lot of dates here. All right, so we'll go to 7. Russell agrees to appear with Haney for a press conference or conferences as designated by DHP for the official announcement and marketing for the fight. DHP shall provide Russell 2 economy flights, 2 hotel rooms for each of the initial press conferences. Russell agrees to promote the bout with customary interviews and permitting the zone to film in his training camp and shall comply with any and all the zone requirements. Both fighters to use best efforts to promote the bout, including live interviews, telephone interviews, media training in camp. In an effort to maximize the revenue generated for the event, both fighters shall comply with the requirements of the WBC leading up to and during the bout. And this is basically saying that, again, Russell Wood is agreeing to appear at press conferences and to do marketing, and it sounds like allow the zone to film like the 24/7 mm-hmm. Type of documentary prior to the fight.
Sure.
But there's no details as to what those requirements are. Mm. And I think, I mean, we can get into that at the end, but let's just say that for the end.
Yeah, do your summarization. 8 is interesting too from my end, but go ahead.
Right, because I have that starred. So neither Haney nor Russell shall participate in any other bout after January 1st, 2021 until the bout has been contested. So when I read that, I was like, they didn't even anticipate this fight taking place in 2020. Because if you believe that the fight was taking place in 2020, you wouldn't have this language in the agreement. So that way, like in this case, Devin can fight in November and still agree to this fight, which sounds like it'll take place in the spring 2021. So, what did you think about this, Fred?
Yeah, I was thinking that just based off of term 8 was Devin had a fight, and I assumed that Gary was going to be able to get a fight, and if they sign this contract, assuming they both win or lost, because it doesn't say win or lose, so they would still be obligated to fight each other after January 1st, 2021. So the fight would take place based off of the terms that I saw was it May? I forget what the last
before May 1st.
Yeah, before May 1st. Yeah. So they have 5 months, 4 months, 4 complete months, 120 days to fulfill this contract.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. Number 9 deals with the gloves. There's not, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Number 10, it says Haney shall be entitled to all prerequisites of champions, such as entering ring last, introduction last on fight night, as well as at all media events as directed by DHP and DAZN. The term sheet may be entered into counterparts, and that basically means that you don't have to sign the same document. So Bill Haney looks like he signed it, and if Gary Russell like electronically signs it or signs another piece of paper and fax it back, then it would be signed in counterparts, but it would still be binding.
Okay.
And then the last section says this term sheet shall be legally binding pending the execution of a long form POS agreement incorporating the foregoing and other customary terms. Russell warrants that Russell has the legal right and authority to enter into this binding agreement. And then, so I start this too at the very bottom. It says Devin Haney Promotion LLC. And then the signature, I was expecting to see Devin Haney, but it's William Haney, which I think that's his dad, Bill, and then Gary Russell Jr. and then Gary Russell Jr. But I think that like a good faith term sheet, and I Googled while you had that boxer on, I was trying to look to see if I can find one. And the only thing that I found was Dan Raphael, our man Dan Raphael, wrote an article in 2008 about a Miranda versus Kessler fight, and he listed the terms of a term sheet. And the terms he listed just had a lot more details, i.e., a date. And so, like, and it was sent by the promoter. And even though Devin Haney Promotions is the co-promoter, a good faith term sheet, in my opinion, would have included at least Matchroom USA on the term sheet and possibly DAZN. But I've never seen a term sheet before, so I can't really say what is industry standard. But because then DAZN could provide all the details in terms of what their expectations are as it relates to the marketing of the fight. And Devin Haney should be signing the contract as well because he's agreeing to fight. So you'd want to know that he's in the fight too. So that's what I would want. But again, I don't know if that is like, I don't know what the standard for term sheet.
Sure. So what's your overall interpretation? Okay, you're the lawyer. So if Gary Russell signed this, will he be binded to these terms?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so, in my opinion, because there's no definitive terms, and it's like contingent. But I guess there's a possibility. So there's a possibility. I don't know how probable it is because, like, what is he agreeing to? We don't know the date of the fight. We don't know the location of the fight. I think that paragraph 5 and 7 on the face, if he were to violate that, I don't think that this contract would hold up because it's unclear what he's agreeing to. Gotcha. In terms of like, if Gary Russell was like, man, I'm not doing any promotion for this fight, and they start finding him $50,000 every time he doesn't show up for like a press call, whatever, like, I don't think that they can hold him to that.
Okay.
But the other terms, I just don't, to be honest, I just don't know. I don't think so, but it's a possibility.
No, I just want your professional opinion. That's all.
Yeah, because Devin Haney is not even, if you're agreeing to a fight, like I would expect, and maybe I'm wrong, that Devin Haney's signature would be on this too. And all it is basically Bill Haney must be the CEO of DHP LLC. So so I can see why Russell didn't sign it, and I can also see why, if Russell is still aligned with Al Heyman, that he's not. I mean, he wouldn't sign it because of paragraph 2, because he's not really. He does have an agreement with an advisor, so he's still with Al Heyman, and they have paperwork.
Okay.
But I think that this goes back to Fred, like why you don't see fights of this level being negotiated uh,
in public.
Because there's a lot of stuff that the public's just not entitled to. I couldn't even find a sample term sheet, even in a lot of the lawsuits, like the Al Heyman Golden Boy promotion lawsuit. A lot of the stuff is redacted, and there's no fighters contracts in the documents that I searched for. So I can't really say what's like normal, but
yeah,
I think that
I think you've done a hell of a job, because I just want to eliminate interpretation and personality, you know what I mean, and just give the fans like from a legal perspective, you know what I mean, as opposed to people saying he ducked, she ducked, he ducked. Oh, Gary Russell's drifting into the sunset. Bill Haney's talking too much. Bill Haney is right. Gary Russell's right. Batman's right. Devin Haney's right. That YouTuber's right. I'm just tired of that shit. I just think you're the expert. You understand legal jargon. You literally have no dog in the race, you know. So it's just important that we just hear from you. Or
right. And Fred, not to sound like an attorney, but this is a lot of gray areas of gray. So I think that there is no real right and wrong per se. I can see how Bill and Devin feel like, they put forth a good faith effort. But I can see why Gary Russell has major issues. I think that what would help Bill and Devin's situation is if they had the zone and Matchroom also signed, so that there was not anything contingent. So like, all right, we got to fight. Everybody that needs to agree to it is agreed to it on Devin Haney's end, which is what he can control. And then they could legitimately say that, it's Gary Russell Jr. is the reason why the fight's not being made. Because the reality is that Gary Russell could have signed this the next day, and old dude at Matchroom could be like, "Fuck you guys, we're not having this fight," and then there's no fight.
Yeah, because when I do terms like for property, most of my 9 out of 10 of the deals I do is in property. My terms are negotiated on the phone. You understand? Like it's just a conversation. People call it mediation in legal terms or whatever you call it, but I'm literally on the phone with the listing agent, or we're meeting in person in front of the property. I need, instead of 7 days, I need 14 days for my inspection. I need one of the units delivered vacant. I want to put escrow. I want to put 3% in escrow. Shit like that.
Yeah.
And so I was just baffled that like people say, Gary Russell, send over the contract, and you're the expert on this. I'm just giving from my perspective. All Gary Russell got to do is say it, and then because 2 contracts, there's no such thing as 2. I mean, technically there is, but it's 1 contract, right? For the most part. So I think like if he tells Bill rewrites the contract and sends it back, and that's just the conversation that's going. It's pretty fluid, right? Term sheets are pretty fluid, right?
Right.
Okay, that's and that's what I thought. So that's why I was like, so that's what I was thinking. Like, no one is really, in my eyes, like no one is really wrong. And I think it was done in decent faith, good faith. I don't know, because who doesn't want leverage in the contract, right? So you can't be mad. Like I was saying at the beginning of this, at the beginning of it, people were mad. I was like, you can't be mad at Bill. People say, oh, he's talking too fast. I wouldn't be mad if a nigga's trying to get over me in a contract. I wouldn't be mad. Honestly, I'm going to see how much I can get. It's not how much you're worth. It's what you negotiate. If you guys want to do business, or you guys just want to make a best friend deal, oh, you're my friend, I trust you. Hey, that's on you. But then you can't be mad if Bill is sending over terms. Then you can't be mad at, in my humble opinion, for Gary Russell saying, hey, I want this, I want that, I want that, because it's just a fluid, in my humble opinion, it's just real fluid, and but yeah, so
yeah, I mean, I'm actually just buying my first property right now, so I'm going over. I gotta go over some documents tonight after I get off of here. But you're right that this is all negotiable. If Gary Russell, for instance, wanted first class are business class flights. I mean, I would assume that Bill would have made the adjustment and sent back another term sheet. But
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like that there was no negotiation
No
going on.
mediation.
So
No.
that's
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Because
Mm-hmm.
you could just be like, man, I agree to X, Y, Z, and I don't agree to A, B,
Mm-hmm.
and C. And I need you to change A, B, and C, and then there may be some back and forth. Um, but this is why, like, if you're doing serious business, you're not doing it in the public.
Yeah, you're not doing it in the public. Yeah. Yeah, true that. Or if it's done in public, do it right in public. You know what I'm saying? Because now credibility is on the line. You know what I mean? Credibility and everything else. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So, mhm.
right. And I think that like Bill, I think that Devin Haney must have a guarantee, and he must be paying Gary Russell from his guarantee, so they know that they can account for the money in their budget.
Mhm.
But um, but I just think that they could have handled on both sides that they could have handled this better by being a lot less public with it and just done the negotiations in private. Personally,
I agree.
but you know, I appreciate them coming on though. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it made for good
it gave us great
conversation.
insight.
Yeah,
It gave us great
yeah,
insight. And
yeah.
now, I personally, you want to hear my personal opinion? I don't think this fight is happening. I think the fight is dead. I think Gary's gonna go his way. Um, Devin's gonna go his way, and whatever is whatever. You know what I mean? So, um, Boxing News 24 is reporting Devin Haney and Gamboa have reached an agreement for a November 7th fight on DAZN. So there you have it.
Fred,
Yes.
how many guys in line with Al Heyman have fought on the zone?
Jacobs, Daniel Jacobs, De, uh, Chavez Jacobs, and Jacobs many times. Who else? Those are the most notables that I could think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
So they have done some work together.
Because I just never thought it was like
Andy Ruiz. Thank you.
Oh, Andy Ruiz.
Remember Andy?
Yeah.
Remember Al was trying to get out of that rematch because he wanted to run with the belts. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. Mikey Garcia.
But is Mikey Garcia aligned with Al?
I don't think Mikey is with Al because he talks like how he talks, how he frames his words. You know what I mean? He's literally a free agent. It's gonna hurt him like after his career, like after his prime, not having a, you know what I mean? But right now it works out to his advantage, I think.
Because it never really made sense to allow one of your better fighters to go fight on your competitor's app, in my opinion. So that's where I'm like, it didn't really make sense to let Gary Russell go fight on his own when there's plenty of guys on the PBC side of the street for him to fight. Like he can fight the winner of Tank Leo Santa Cruz. You know, but that's where I was kind of skeptical from the beginning. And Gary Russell Jr. is out here. They're both, Gary and Devin, are really good at promoting, and you know they're doing what it takes to generate social media buzz on Twitter and YouTube, and we're talking about them. And
yeah, it definitely made them more popular. It worked.
You know, like, but I mean, I know that I'm more interested to watch Gary Russell Jr. fight than I was 2 months ago. So.
Facts. Yeah, you're right. This definitely has bolstered both of their name cachet, you know. So
yeah.
So it's it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And real quick, and I fuck with Bill. I think I love when Bill comes on. I liked when Devin came on. I like what they're doing. I just wish that they weren't on the zone. That's my personal.
Yeah, true that. And you also got to take into account too. See, I look at it in this show. I may not see it from 50,000 feet, but as soon as the show ends, I see it from 50,000 feet. Bill is the promoter, right? At the end of the day, it's hard for us to transition from Bill, the backstory, Bill, the father, to Bill, the promoter. You understand? So,
Right.
so that's some shit that is hard to transfer in a fucking 2-hour segment of this show. You understand? And it is his responsibility to get the best deal for Devin Haney. Fuck Gary Russell. Fuck Batman. Fuck PBC. Fuck Al Heyman. Fuck Bob Arum. And the list goes on and on. It is his responsibility to get the best deal. You understand? Like whenever I buy a property, I always demand this shit. It's especially when I know they're about to accept my offer. I need you to raise the rent. I need you to raise the rent because when I come in, I want to be the good guy. I want to be the saving grace. I want to be the hero. You know what I mean? I want to be the guy that everyone's happy with at the end of the movie. Because as soon as I go into a property, I raise the rent. You understand? I just have to. It's just, because all these, you get what I'm saying. It's just business. So what I'm saying is that's Bill's job. Bill's job is to get the best deal. And the same thing holds true for it. If it's Al Heyman, it's Al Heyman. He has to get the best deal for Gary Russell. So there's going to be a lot of standstill. And honestly, November 7th was too close to get this deal done. You understand? It was too close to get. It was way too close to get this deal done. Yeah, go ahead.
Final thing.
Yeah,
but
go ahead.
When is Devin Haney's contract with DAZN over?
I have no idea. I can't answer that. I don't know that. Okay. So I don't know if it's time or bouts. So that's definitely a Team Haney question.
Because I feel like the fight that they really should be hyping up is Devin versus Ryan Garcia because they're on the same side of the street.
Facts.
And you don't want to be like if they decide to move to ESPN or PBC, you don't want to miss your opportunity to fight Ryan Garcia when you have the opportunity and you were literally on the same side. There's no obstacle in the way.
Sure.
And I think that would be a big, well, I would say a big pay-per-view, but it's on DAZN. But I think that would be a big fight.
Sure.
Like, especially with first man.
I got it. But makes sense to me.
That's my thought.
I appreciate you.
I really appreciate it. Sorry for taking these so long.
No, it's fine. It's fine because I just wanted to eliminate the conversation out of it. I was watching Drew Tight and I was like, man, I need Broderick to come in and just explain this shit because if I explain it, I'm going to lean one side and lean to the other side. And I didn't want that shit. And I may do it subconsciously. You know what I mean? And I think that is just, I think you made it as clear and present as possible. Now people can just feel better and breathe now. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So because that Drew Titan show, I was like, I was getting nauseated. Like that shit was